How's it going, everyone? So this video isn't going to be like a tutorial or anything. It's just going to be me live coding a little application idea I have. Basically, I want to track when my wife has symptoms of her heart failure. So basically, I want to have like some type of check boxes where I can kind of check, did you eat meat today? Did you drink milk today? Did you have dairy today? And then somehow use that input and correspond that to symptoms, right? So I could maybe use this app to generate a data set to load into some type of machine learning to figure out what is causing some symptoms to flare up, vice versa. So I'm going to use Next right now, npx create Next app. I don't really use Next that often. So let's just go ahead and try using it for this. If you don't know what Next is or you haven't used Next much, basically it's just a server-side rendering framework that uses React under the hood to basically create web applications. You can do like static site generation with it, but for the most part, you just run your Next server, and then when people hit your routes, it's going to hit endpoints that are going to send back React components, and then potentially you can write APIs with Next as well if you want. But I haven't really done it much. We're going to try to use Mongo with this to see how hard this might be to get set up. Or, even I could just use something locally, right? I could use like MongoDB locally. So we have a Next app running. I'm going to go ahead and say yarn start. Or maybe yarn dev would be better. Let's do yarn dev. That should load up a server that we can hit on localhost 3000. So let's verify this is all working. And you might say, well, haven't you really used Next before? I don't really know how it works. It's super simple. It really is. Like, if you know React, like Next is nothing additional. So basically your application is split up into pages, and then for every page that you add, this is automatically going to create like a route here. So if I were to add a new page called like health, I could just go to /health and that would run whatever page I generate here. But let's just try to build something. So in the index file, this is like the main page that you're seeing over here. We can kind of delete all this stuff. I'm not going to like bring in Bootstrap or bring in any type of CSS framework. I just want to do something simple. Sometimes the simplest thing you can do is just not bring in anything. Don't need a footer. Don't need an image. All right, so all this should be okay, whatever. So what I want to do is when a user goes to this application, I want to present them with like today's date. And then you have the option to kind of check some checkboxes, true or false. And then you can submit or save the state of today. Maybe you don't even need a save. Every time you check a checkbox, I could just go ahead and do an automatic save to the database. Don't really know, doesn't really matter. Let's just go ahead and say, let's add a checkbox. So input type of checkbox. Let us see what this will give us. I don't need a style on it yet. Sometimes GitHub Copilot just gives you too much stuff. Sometimes it works perfectly. Sometimes it gives you too much stuff. But I just want a checkbox, all right? So typically, if you have a checkbox, you want to wrap it in a label. At least this is how I've seen it done in like Bootstrap. So you have a label here. Sometimes you have the label to the right of it, and like you can float it. But I'm going to put an actual value here. So like I'm going to say, did you have dairy today? And inside the checkbox, I think we should probably put a value here that says like, is dairy? I don't know what you want to name that. Like you can come back and refactor that. It's not the big of a deal. So did you have dairy today? And what this does is if you wrap your checkbox in the label, you can click on the actual label to check the checkbox. So it's a little bit better in terms of UX. Maybe it's bad in terms of UX because it's harder to select this, but I personally hate having to like hover the mouse over here and find that small checkbox. But yeah, anyway. So let's try to add some other data points. So we can kind of abstract this and make this more generic if you wanted to. Like we could over here, we could put a constant array. I could say like things to check, make that an array, and then basically put like names and values for all this stuff. But I mean, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's just go down here and like add another label. It's okay to copy and paste code. Like you don't have to keep everything dry. So what are some other things that may be contributing to her having troubles breathing? So let's just say, did you have a lot of salt today? You know, maybe she had a lot of salt and she's retaining fluid. Is salty. How about that? Is salty. Now the idea is I want to keep all these as booleans. Like I don't want to do like values or anything because typically Boolean values are easier to feed into a neural network or some type of like, what's it called, a KVM or something. But honestly, I want to have checkboxes and then I want to have some type of gauge as like, what are your symptoms? So what am I trying to do? So let's just keep it at those two for right now. I can think of some more. But we're going to put like an H2 here and I'm going to say, I don't know what to call this, data points. Like, but we also want symptoms, right? So symptoms. Is that how you spell symptoms? My English ain't the best. All right, so let's just go here, put in a label, make sure this shows up. So for the symptoms, I want to say feeling good. And then maybe we could use check boxes or radio boxes for this. Like, let's go to, I totally forget how to do radio boxes, right? So even though I've been coding for like 10 years, there's stuff that you don't do that often. Like radio boxes is one of them. And if you don't do it that often, there's not a necessity to memorize it. I guess just type radio value. It looks like it's the same as a checkbox, but let's just go ahead and say type radio. I think the main difference is that the name has to be the same for all these, right? So I had to put name of symptoms. Symptoms. And then I might need to also put a label on these. So it already has a label. So let's just see if this works. I'll just name it 1 through 5 or something. Actually, 5 will be good. Sorry, I'm changing my mind a lot. I'll do 5 is feeling good. And we will just do 3. Let's just do 3 of them. So I'll change it to 3, 2, 1. And if we're going to do, if I plan on doing like a neural network, I might want to do like -1, 0, and 1 or something. I don't really know. But there. Simple as that. All right, so now when people check these things or they change the symptoms, you can go through here, you can add data points. I need to probably also add a button that says like save. And when you click that button, we're probably gonna have to submit something to a backend, which we won't really do. I'm not gonna spend too much time in this video recording, maybe 30 minutes max. Might already be close to that 30 minutes threshold. But I guess it's good to kind of keep all this stuff in state. Or technically we could wrap this in a form and then we could kind of get access to all these inputs. So, yeah, let's just do that, whatever. I'll say form and then I will say on submit and then I will just call a method called on submit or handle submit. Handle submit. Okay, put the form there and we're gonna wrap all of our stuff inside of this. Type equals submit. So what this should allow us to do is that when someone submits this form, again, we got to create that method up here, handle submit. That's going to take a React event, I believe. Let's just console log that out so we can see what's going on. Unfortunately, wrapping this in a form kind of broke the layout, so that's kind of interesting. I'd have to figure out why that's going on. What is this? Handle submit is not defined. It should be good now. Let me refresh. Failed to fetch. I think it's because I went to the wrong page. Anyway, so when I submit, let's just check some stuff. We should get back a synthetic React event, which when you look at it, you can't view it. I believe there's like another way to print out things like that. I think it's console log EV. Is that what it is? Try this. Console log versus E. Browser how to console log DOM elements. I just watched a YouTube video of some guy showing this method that I don't really use. Dir, it's called dir. All right, console log dir. I don't know why I thought of EV there. But let's try this again. Go ahead, click save. We get back a more better formatted. Nope, we don't get anything. So anyway, the thing sucks. Let's just go here and we have a synthetic event. There's a way to like loop through. Maybe GitHub Copilot will tell us loop through the form data. Is it just, yeah, let's try console log e.target.values. As you can tell, like, I'm a noob. I don't really do form stuff that much. It's more of like a traditional server-side rendering thing, but let's just go here. React form submit get all form fields. Like, that's all I want to do. And if you're watching this, you're like, dude, you don't know how to do anything. You're right, I don't. I have to Google a lot of stuff, especially since I just woke up and my memory's not working that well. So e.target of 0.value. Get the values from array form of element of index. I don't want that. I want, yeah, so everything on target should have a name depending on the name of the input field that you put. And honestly, like, this approach that I'm doing might not be the best. What I should probably do is just do on-change things. But it just seems so redundant to have to do that. This one looks promising. Let's grab this one. All right, so what this is doing is it's basically converting my event, which will be a form submission event, and it's going to convert those to key value pairs. So this should hopefully allow us to easily grab all the form data. Honestly, I don't do this much. What I usually do is just use like on change event listeners, symptoms 2. So my data points are not working because I don't think I added names to them. So when you're doing this approach, you got to make sure that you add names to all your input fields. So symptoms has something already on it, but these don't. So I need to make sure I say name of is salty. And in fact, these should probably be true or false. I'm not sure why. I don't know if I even need a value here, to be honest. Like, I think they should default to false. So let's see what happens. Refresh the page. Is dairy on? Is salty on? And then if it's not set, it just doesn't show. Which, maybe that's fine. Kind of rather it be explicit and say like, is salty false? But whatever. Yeah, I kind of wonder why wrapping this in a form didn't like put it all in one line. Like, this, is the form like somewhere globally styled? Interesting. Like, maybe I just need to do a new lines after these labels. So like, what I could do is just give this a class of styles dot form. And again, Next by default, I think it uses CSS modules. I mean, you can do whatever CSS that you want, but the way CSS modules work is that there's a file here that has all the styles for your page. And for every time that you kind of name something like container, you can actually access it over here. And I don't use CSS styles that much. Like, when your elements have something like this, like, how do you actually style them? Is that even possible? I don't know. But If I change this to .form, I should be able to access it and say input here. So input, and I'm going to say display of block. That should hopefully put them all on a new line, although that is not what I wanted. You would think that the checkbox... Wait, did I do input? Oh, I need to do label. That's why. Okay, that looks better. Yeah, I am curious, like if you use CSS modules, if you have it a custom form, like I call this symptoms form, how do you access that form? Because now it's going to go back to the old style. In CSS modules, I'd have to, maybe I can just do brackets and do this. Yeah, so if you have like a hyphen in your stuff, you got to do something like that. So maybe people don't do hyphens. Maybe they'll do something like this, symptoms form. I don't know. I need to read up on CSS modules. Honestly, I just use Sass. I think Sass is the best way to style your stuff, but I'm just going to do whatever is given out of the box with Next and just hit the ground running with that. So I haven't really done much. I made a page with some radio buttons, with some checkboxes, a submit form, and we can get the actual data that people have checked here. So at some point, we need to come back and submit that to a backend. So I don't know, do something here, submit data to an API on save. Should probably say event, event.print event default. I'll put that at the top. Yeah, so the idea is that when you submit the form, it's going to create a data entry in the database or overwrite an existing one. So you might need to do like a put request every time just to overwrite it. But yeah, so for the API, I mean, you can make an API here. Like I can make a, let me refresh my memory with how this works. So I think by default with Next, like I can go to API /hello, and that'll hit that API endpoint, right? So you have a built-in API. This is like using Express under the hood, I believe. But you can make your own APIs and stuff. So instead of hello, I wanted to put like entries, like data entries. And we should be able to kind of change based on if you do a put or a post or a patch. So let's just do that real quick and I might wrap this video up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if request is a post request. I think you have to do this in Next. It's kind of a pain. You have to like check the method and then you have to do something. So if you do a post request, we're going to do some logic. Otherwise, we're going to send back a 500 error or 404 maybe. Oh yeah, I could do end. How about that? Let's see how that works. So if it's a post request, what we kind of want to do is we want to take the body. Oh, would you look at that? I don't think this is going to work. Form data. I don't know if form data is built into Node. Right now, again, I just like to rely on Copilot sometimes. But if this does work, we can actually go back to our index file. And in the submit method, we could use something like fetch to do a post request, or we could actually just use the form submission by default. I don't know what the best approach would be. Probably you want to use fetch, but let's just say fetch. Do a, let's see, do a post request using fetch, and then we are going to say fetch and then /API entries, and then hopefully Copilot will tell me how to do that. I think it's just simple. You do method and then put like data or body. Okay, that's all you had to do. So hopefully this works. Honestly, I don't need to console log all the form data at this point. I just need to send it to the backend. So if this works, when I click that submit button, our API should get that request and maybe print it out. I don't know what's going to happen. But let's go back to the main top level and click some stuff. Click save. Check out network tab. It's going to do, it did a post request to API /entries. It sent symptoms of 2 is salty on, but the API crashed because again, form data is not something that I believe exists on the back end. So what you got to do is go to Stack Overflow and Google, because I honestly don't know. But I want to make sure I get that body. So I think I should say rec.body, and we should at least see something. So let's try it again. Click save. We get back the multi-part upload. So we may have to figure out how to parse that. So next, how to parse multi-part form. I don't know if I have to bring in like a middleware or middable. Yeah, so you have to like bring in some middleware to handle multi-part form uploads. So what I'm going to say is screw that. I am just going to say headers, content type is application JSON, and then we could just, I think you're going to just do this. Let's see what happens if you do this. Right, this is how I like to learn. I like to just experiment with stuff, watch it crash, come back and see if anything happens. So this failed again, invalid JSON. Okay, so I probably need to like convert. You know what, I'm just going to do this the proper way. I'm going to send in, oh wait, I probably need to stringify it. JSON.stringify. I hope this little tutorial's not, this isn't even a tutorial. I hope this live coding, you guys are getting something from it, other than watching me struggle building a one page with checkboxes. So we did that post request, the backend got an empty array. So that's not working. I wonder if you have to do another middleware. Next, process application JSON requests. You think some of the stuff would be built in. JSON parse body rec.body. So this is how you do it if it's JSON. So let us try that in console log body real quick and see if we make some progress. I don't think the server is fully done starting up. Okay. So we're sending over bad JSON still. Is this not how you send over a post request? Fetch post with JSON. Content type application JSON. Body, you stringify the JSON. So I'm doing it right from what I'm reading. But what I'm going to do is just to verify this works, I'm going to say is dairy. And then I'm going to say event. Oh, I can do that. Okay. Moment of truth. I've tried so many different things. Let's figure out if we can get this working. So it's still not working. Question is why? Is dairy null came over? Okay, so it must already be JSON. I should be able to do this if it's already JSON. Cool. Yeah, so in Express, typically you got to bring like a middleware to be able to process the JSON that's sent in, but I guess with Next, that's already built in, which is convenient. But I'm just going to go ahead and do this like the old-fashioned way. I'm going to explicitly list out every name that we have, just so that we get back an object that is explicitly defined that has like everything that we want. So let's just go ahead and send that again. If you look in the back end, we get is dairy null, is salty on, symptoms of 2. So I'm not sure I really like that. Like maybe we can just say value of false, but that might become a string of false. Try that again. Yeah, it's a string of false. So there's some stuff going on wrong with this that I need to kind of figure out, but that is kind of how you make a REST or Next.js page. We have it submitting to a backend. I showed you how to kind of create an API. how to send some JSON to the API. If you look here, we are actually processing that JSON and printing out is dairy. And that's all I got. That's all I'm going to do for this video. But the next video, if I do make one, I'm going to bring in some type of database. Maybe it's Mongo. Maybe it's MySQL locally. And I'm going to try to keep these entries in the database so that later on we can actually have like a dashboard where we can view a calendar of, you know, symptoms. Maybe some days in the calendar be red, green, or yellow based on if you're feeling good, average, or bad. And then I can click on that calendar to actually view the data entries of that particular day. And then I do want to bring in some type of charting, maybe like Chart.js or some type of other chart library, so I can view how this stuff is changing over time, maybe. I don't know. But if you enjoyed watching this little live coding, give me a thumbs up. Also, be sure to subscribe if you're new to this channel. And leave a comment if you have any features you think I should add to this, or if you actually enjoy watching me build this. All right, have a good day and happy coding.